Hello and welcome back to Chelsea Chat with Jamie Bunce, expert Chelsea fan, and myself, Dan Welch, bringing just a little bit of neutrality to this podcast. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment and hit that bell notification to be notified of any new updates we make, and do get involved in the comments. Do let us know any thoughts you've got around what we've spoken about today, and even if you've got any differing opinions. Right, let's get started. Jamie, where do you want to start? Obviously, there was the game yesterday, Chelsea versus Fulham, but do you want to touch on the FA Cup game?
Yeah. So obviously we didn't do a pod last week. It was only a game against Morecambe, so it wasn't an urgent one to do. But no, it was a good win, kind of as you would expect. I was surprised at the team that Lampard started with. It was a very strong team for that kind of game. I was expecting a few more rotations, a few maybe if the youngsters were training with the first team, so I thought maybe a few more of those might have started. And to be fair, I mean, only one of them made the bench, which was Andrew, and he's already played. So a bit surprised by that, but I think at the same time it was quite important to get some of the players a bit of confidence. Obviously Havertz scored, Werner scored, so the kind of players that have been lacking in confidence were able to play and score. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a routine win. They'd never really looked like threatening, except for early on. There was a kind of issue of Kepa almost made a howler of a mistake, which left my heart in my mouth.
Sure. Everyone realised why he's still not in the team.
Despite our thoughts on Mendy not being as good as we first thought, I think, as I said in the last podcast, he's still not Kepa, so that's already an improvement. But yeah, no, it was a good win, and we got Luton next Sunday in the cup.
Old age rivals for Jamie Bunce, maybe not Chelsea so much, but old age rivals for Jamie Bunce.
Yeah, coming from Milton Keynes and being affiliated with Rushden and Diamonds back in the day, Luton were local rivals, so that was a good one. If people are still allowed in grounds, I'd probably try to get a ticket if it was away. I think it's at home actually, but yeah, no, it's I think they also did the 5th round draw as well, and
they did, yes.
Obviously it's between two teams. I can't remember who, but I think they were both championship teams as well. So very, very good draw for us. I think one of them was Barnsley, who we played in the EFL Cup as well at the beginning of the season. So
nice.
That'd be it'd be nice. Get Havertz playing again. Maybe you'll get another hat trick.
Yeah, and Crouch did well in that draw, managing to pull Man United and Liverpool out. So one of those is going to be out of the FA Cup. Increasing the chances. Yeah.
I was happy with that as well, and not just because being a Chelsea fan, I want to see those teams out, but I think you need ties like that to keep it interesting, keep it exciting. And it also will mean that they'll probably have to play kind of stronger teams.
Exactly.
Which in this piled up season, I think it means that they play in the league, so more chance for drop points. So that could work out quite nicely for us, to be fair.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree. Okay, so moving on to Chelsea versus Fulham, the game yesterday. On paper, there was a victory, 3 points, desperately needed. But it's a little bit more than that. I think there's a few things to unpick. So, Jamie, your first opinions on that win?
I'd say first half we were not great, but it was kind of a bit of a scrappy affair between the two sides. It was both teams had their chances in the first half. We made a few mistakes, but overall, when you look at the stats, we definitely dominated. We were the team pushing more for a goal. I mean, they had the first kind of maybe 5-10 minutes, but for that we just kind of took control of the game. Ziyech started to get a bit more involved and trying to pick out some key passes.
And on that, Chelsea had 21 shots versus Fulham's 10, and just almost 70% possession overall for Chelsea. So absolutely, in terms of those stats, and even 12 corners versus 1, it was strong for Chelsea. But Fulham did have a few good chances, and with Caballero second half, really should have scored that. And so counter attacks like that worry me a little bit. That looked too easy, too smooth. Fulham looked like Chelsea made Fulham look like a great team with that counter attack.
I think the problem is when you've got Jorginho in the team, counter attacks are always going to happen. You watch how like the movement of that chance.
Yeah,
they just can get through our midfield very, very easily. Jorginho is a player that you need on the pitch for like moving the ball in transition and when you have the ball. But when you don't have the ball, he's just the worst player to have in midfield.
Yeah.
I was disappointed to see him playing yesterday. I knew he would, but I was hoping that Gilmore was going to play instead because obviously Kante was suspended. So I thought it might have been a case that we'd bring in Gilmore. But
and on that, so not to go down a rabbit hole, but there was one thing I wanted to bring up with you. We often go in these podcasts, and there seems to be a couple of disappointments each time around who's starting, who's not. Mm-hmm. Reflecting on that, I know it's up to the manager to start who they want, and you're always going to be disappointed, but it does seem to be a bit of a running theme. And then if I talk about, Werner and Havertz not starting, I understand, both not performing as well as we kind of hoped. But then I know that Ziyech was kind of in one of the positions that was needed, but taking off Ziyech and then putting on Havertz and Werner, I'd love to see all three of them play together.
Yeah,
this decision making from Lampard.
Yeah, I think that the issue is that I don't think he's figured out what's best at the moment. Like I think all of us probably had the same kind of starting 11 in our minds when the season started and what would be our best like lineup.
Yeah, and
I think the only time that they've all been able to play together in terms of like fitness, was, and you saw how that went. But again, that came at a time when we were very low in confidence. Our form had been awful. So it's kind of just it's difficult to. And the other thing as well is I think Callum Hudson-Oddoi's probably been one of our best players in the last month or so. He's been outstanding. So I'd almost say that it was more disappointing that he wasn't playing than it was that Werner or Havertz weren't playing.
And forgive me,
I'd say,
I'm not up to date with all the changes in terms of formations, but does it feel like he's tried enough different types of formations to fit as many possible in that team and then just be cutthroat in the sense like, to me, when I'm looking at it, often is a 4-3-3.
It's always a 4-3-3. I think he, the last couple of games he has changed it to a 4-4-2 when we've been chasing a goal or we need that kind of penetration. But his main focus, his main idea is this 4-3-3 with the two attacking eights. Havertz is starting. He's improved in the last few games that he's played actually, and I do think he'll slot in there eventually. But I think more so when the team are playing better as a whole. I think it's when you're having a battle and you're not playing so well, you need to control the midfield a bit better. And I think Kovacic does that better than Havertz. He can win the ball, he can drive forward with it and start something.
100%.
Whereas Havertz is more about the interplay in the attacking areas. So I think just until we get to the point where we're playing well and we've got a bit more confidence, I think you're going to see Kovacic there, and then Havertz will come in at a later stage when we're playing well, we're attacking well, and he's just going to come in there to boost that. And I think
that's a sign of Havertz's game. He needs to improve. You can't believe Twitter everything, but I did see an apparent Ballack quote on Twitter today about in Germany, Havertz was allowed to do what he wants, and one of those things that he didn't have to do, he got away with not doing, was tracking back, was chasing the ball. He was there to kind of be that spark once they got the ball back, but that doesn't work in English football, especially when the team's kind of not playing as confidently as you'd hope. And you saw it with the likes of Ozil, right? Yes, he didn't absolutely do that in terms of he wasn't the best tracking back player, but Mourinho said he had to do that when he was in Real Madrid, and he had to build that side of his game. And I think it's Havertz needs to start focusing on that a little bit, although we don't want to lose that spark up front.
The thing is, for me, like my idea for how Lampard wants to play is not the same as probably what he has, but to me, I would say that if you've got Mount on the other side of that attack thing, then Mount is good at covering and dropping deep and picking up the ball in deeper areas, and also tracking back and covering men in midfield.
Yeah, he is.
It's almost like when we lose the ball, it turns to a 4-2-3-1 with Mount dropping back to sit alongside the holding midfielder. It allows Havertz to kind of stay a bit forward. So that, in my mind, that's how it should work. So for me, I don't think he needs to have that kind of a defensive responsibility as much. I still think, obviously, it's important. If it's on your side, you need to get back. It's just kind of how it is. But I think it more focuses on Mount getting back, and that's suited better to Mount than it is to Havertz. Saying that, he's a big lad, so he should be able to do those defensive duties pretty well. And he's rapid,
big but skinny,
he's really quick.
yeah.
But he's really quick, so he should be able to get back and just leg it back to stop a counter attack. You would hope.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I'm not saying he has to be the most defensive player in the world, but he has to be prepared to get the ball back but you're a good point. Mount is, and I mean, it's no point even talking about Mount. I think they covered it in Match of the Day. Seems to be Chelsea's top player at the moment. Just had a great game. Was, as you just said, was in there biting, trying to get the ball back as much as possible. Was the one player that kind of, and if we want to talk about Robinson's horror tackle, was the one player that was shocked and just seems to be the one with the most passion at the moment.
Yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, he was all over the place. Everything we kind of did well revolved around him. There was a few players that were kind of having bright moments, but he kind of just had a really good game. I think that's the other point really about the game yesterday, is that we seem to have, as a team, we had like good moments, but we didn't make that good spells. It was like a couple of chances here and there, but there wasn't specific spells where we were just like looking like we could score 4 or 5. We were having a few moments here and there, but around that it was just sloppiness.
That's a really interesting. Yeah, I think you're right there. There was the odd moment of brilliance. So, Timo Werner. I haven't watched every Chelsea game this season, but to me, he seemed to play with his head down.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. There was a chance at the end that he should have just buried. I mean, I think the difficulty is, he scored last week in the FA Cup game. Granted, it's against Morecambe, but the fact that he was able to find the back of the net should have given him a bit of confidence. But
with hope, isn't it? Yeah.
But then you think, well, how is he going to carry on that confidence if he gets dropped?
Yeah, that's the frustration.
Like you want to build up that confidence, but at the same time, if you're not going to play him straight away after, then it's difficult. But then at the same time, they might have been resting players for Leicester on Tuesday because it's a really quick turnaround. So, I wouldn't imagine you'll see Giroud starting on Tuesday. But with missing chances like that, I also wouldn't be overly confident to start Werner.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I think the problem is he's getting into the good positions. He had 2 or 3 chances last night, so he's getting into those areas. So he's one away. It's just getting that first one and keeping it rolling. And I do think it will happen. I think he will come up good.
Does it help though that this? And I know we've had. Sorry, Jamie, you are cutting out a little bit, but hopefully it'll be all right. Does it help that? And I know Chelsea have had many injuries, but this team just seems to just change a lot. And I know it's a heavy season, and you need to. Yeah, I know, but do you reckon that's causing any kind of challenge for everyone in this team? This is just me thinking, right? So to completely blow this out of the water, and it's very difficult to know. But do you feel like Lampard's got a good relationship with this group of players? Do you feel like there's a bit of rapport going on there yet?
Well, I think the biggest issue is the fact that we have far too many good players. And it's obviously keeping everyone happy is impossible. The other issue alongside that is the fact that a lot of the players that are not getting regular game time are some of the big characters in the dressing room. So someone like Rudiger, who hasn't really been playing too much, he's probably getting in the ear of Werner and Havertz and this manager's useless. He's not playing me. He should be playing me.
3
I could
German
do a
ones
better
as well.
job. And
From
yeah,
Germany,
that's what I mean. And then you've got someone like Alonso, who has completely fallen out with Lampard. Again, probably getting in the ear of some of his mates there, and like, oh, what's this manager doing? He's awful. Blah blah blah.
Kante,
so
I know he wouldn't complain, but
Kante was suspended, and he tends to play every game usually anyway. So he's not really one of those.
There wasn't apparent falling out early in the season. It was what I was alluding to. I know he wouldn't be that vocal, and I don't know whether that was absolute rubbish, but that's what I was alluding to.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the season he was a little bit weaker. He wasn't playing as well as his camp, and so I think Lampard was probably on his back a little bit because we heavily rely on what Kante can do to play the way we want to play.
Yeah.
But I think we can get back to where we was. We can. I think we need to get a couple out of the door in January just to calm things down around the dressing room.
But it doesn't look like that's going to happen, does it?
Well, you've got someone like Tomori, who looks like he might be AC Milan. So that's one. We had 5 centre backs, so we needed to get one down. I mean, I wouldn't have picked Tomori to be the one to leave, but he tends to be the 5th choice at the moment, so it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, trying to get Alonso out the door, trying to get Kepa out the door, these kind of players, it's very difficult because we paid a lot of money for them. They're probably on big wages, and the level of player that they are, it's difficult to find someone that's going to pick up that wage, or the players are not likely to take a pay cut. They just sit on the bench and take their millions and enjoy it. But for us to try and get them out the door for a fee that fits us, and to a club that's willing to pay something that the player's willing to accept, it's not an easy task. So obviously the Kepa gamble completely failed, and I don't think we'll be keeping hold of him. But it's just finding a suitor, and it's probably going to be a loan deal. But I'm hoping that happens sooner rather than later, to be honest.
Okay, so moving a little bit on, I believe, forgive me if it wasn't that, but Azpilicueta and the Mendy mistake, I believe it was Azpilicueta already passed back and Mendy was already rushing out and then couldn't pull back. Who do you blame for that? Because to me, again, that's a sign of a lack of a strong relationship between the two players. Yes, Mendy, I imagine, in my opinion, should have been calling for that, and I was surprised if he wasn't calling that he's rushing out, but that could have been the issue. But yeah, who do you blame?
Yeah, that to me that was Mendy's fault for sure.
Okay.
I mean, they're to run out. You're not going to get it first, then don't run out. It is that simple as a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be the first to the ball, then don't run out. He could see that the situation was under control with Dave, so just let him handle it.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, that's the thing about Mendy. I think last podcast, me and Moose, I think we covered this, but he's at the moment seems quite nervy. Like anytime the ball comes near him, I'm kind of a bit nervous that he's going to make a mistake with his feet. The difference being, like with Kepa, you at any point could have done something to make a mistake, but he also couldn't save any shots going towards him. At least Mendy can make a save, So we've made an improvement. I think Mendy would be a good number 2 goalkeeper, and we need someone. We need a world-class goalkeeper to take us to the next level.
Really, you're now saying that Mendy's your good number 2. He's not a number 1 anymore. And you're not going to stick with him just to improve his footwork.
I think he's a good number 1 compared to Kepa.
But with this whole team looking nervous and not, do you reckon that rubs off on a goalkeeper, right?
It probably does. It probably does. But I think that the thing with Mendy, he was never brought in as that kind of final product. I don't think he's got it in there for his passing abilities and things like that. You look at your Edisons and your Allisons; they're footballers as much as they are keepers. But Mendy's that kind of guy. He's also he can come out and claim the crosses and he'll make a good save. But he doesn't play very well with the ball at his feet, and every kind of mistake that he seems to have nothing to do with saves. It's always to do with the ball at his feet, and he can cause you those nervous moments. We need to go to the next level. You need that world-class goalkeeper that can do all of it. And the mistakes can happen. I mean, Alisson and Edison have both made mistakes, but they're kept to a bare minimum. They're very, few and far between. Whereas Mendy, I think he's got a mistake in him possibly every game. When I look back, there's a few times where he's made kind of could have done worse than they did, and yeah, it's probably a confidence thing as well. But at the same time, he's taken those chances, which can be quite nervy. Whereas I think if you had one like an Old Black or a Donnarumma, you might not have those kind of issues. As I said, he saves, which is compared to Kepa, just anything like that. If the ball was headed towards goal, it was going to end up in the back of the net. So we got the upgrade we needed for this season, but I still don't think he's our long-term option.
Okay. So looking ahead to the game, Chelsea United. This was the obviously, as you know, the squad for the starting 11 for the Chelsea game. What's the best case scenario here in terms of who starts against United? Who do you move around? What are the positions?
Against Leicester, you mean?
Oh, is it Leicester?
Yeah, I would say I think Pulisic needs to come out.
Yeah.
I'd go for Hudson-Odoi.
Okay.
I think you probably will see. You might see Werner in for Giroud.
You might, or do you want to?
Personally, oh God, it's difficult because it depends if he turns up. It's so hard because I know he can do it, but it's just when he will do it. And that Leicester game is massive for Frank Lampard. Like if we don't win that game, then he's very, if not going to be sacked, then he'll be very, very close to it. So he might go with someone like Abraham, who is feeling a bit more confident and more likely to put a chance away.
Okay, but who would you be happy to see in that position, or who would you be disappointed to see in that position?
I wouldn't be disappointed with any of them, to be fair.
Okay,
they're all good strikers. It's just in terms of form, Abraham's probably in the best form out of the three of them.
Yeah.
So I'd probably go Abraham with Hudson-Odoi and Ziyech as the front three.
Okay.
Midfield, I would just swap out Jorginho for, if Kante's back, I'm not sure if it was a 1-match suspension or 2, but I would go for Kante if available. If not, I'd go for Gilmour, and I'd keep the other two the same.
So you're not putting Havertz back in the squad?
Not for a game like Leicester, no.
Okay.
I think that's quite important to have someone like Kovacic.
But does that then? But this is the challenge we've got. You're turning into Lampard. We've all talked about how Werner needs to get his games, and you need to have confidence in Havertz to build up that relationship. Them not being started against such a strong, important game, that speaks volumes to them, and they're going to continue that kind of upset against the manager and the decisions he makes. I understand they have to make hard decisions, but it's kind of going against what we've all talked about in this podcast. But then again, clearly Lampard's making the right decisions.
Well, I think the problem is that when you're in such poor form and such low confidence, you go out against a team like Leicester, who's playing very well, or you go up against a City or a United or a Liverpool. If you get slapped, then it's just going to make things worse. But if you're playing players that are kind of not feeling as bad and not in such bad form, then they can maybe get a job, get you over the line, and the whole team kind of raises its confidence. And if you play players like Werner and Havertz against teams like Burnley or Fulham, they're the kind of games really that they should be playing in, because they're the games they're more likely to get some goals, to feel a bit more confident and carry that through.
And I'm purposefully pushing here, but you're talking about getting over the line. It looks like you're pulling together a squad here that can maybe just about get you over the line in terms of a win by 1 goal, or potentially even a draw, by the looks of what you're putting on the field here. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would be happy. I'd be delighted with a 1-0 win over Leicester.
Yeah,
that would be a fantastic result, considering our confidence and form being so low, considering that Leicester are on a really good spell at the moment. They're playing really well and getting results comfortably at the moment. So you've got a team in form who are sat like third in the league against a team who are sat like eighth or ninth, wherever we are, and just performing horribly. You get a win against that team, that's a massive confidence boost. So any means necessary, really, is my kind of thought process.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. It makes sense. This isn't about the future of Chelsea or the best squad. It's about doing all you can to get a result now against in a really important game.
Yeah, I mean, top four is vital. It does, like, you can look at the future as something we're aiming to be, and we're in a transition period, but you don't get top four, then you're losing a whole year of Champions League experience for these young players, and it's not worth it, and the money you lose from that as well is massive.
Mm-hmm. And so finally, just back for, I think they were the least of Chelsea's problems, but would you make any changes?
Yeah, I'd bring in James if he's fit for Azpilicueta. Azpilicueta's lost his legs. I think that's quite clear for everyone to see now. Yes. And I'd bring Zuma back in for Rudiger.
Okay.
I'm not really sure why he made that change. It's not really clear. But Zuma,
maybe, as you say, he was complaining in the dressing room too much and had to give him a game.
Possibly, yeah. But I mean, I think he played in the FA Cup last week. So, but maybe he impressed Lampard in that game, so he decided to go for him. But no, I'd bring Zuma back in. I like the partnership of Zuma and Silva.
Okay, good, sounds good. And so you said, give me a prediction. Or a hopeful prediction, as it probably ended up being for the
game. A hopeful prediction would be 1-0, but I've got more of a feeling it might be a draw. I could see maybe a 1-0, finishing a 1-0.
You really think you'll keep a clean sheet against Leicester?
Well, that was the hopeful one, mate.
Fair, good answer.
The positive I did see was the fact that in the Leicester game, Vardy kind of came off with a couple of minutes to go, but he was kind of limping off. So I mean, that's not a positive as a human being, but as a Chelsea fan, I'm kind of looking at that like, oh God, please tell me he's not fit to play against us. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're the same side without Vardy, so he's not there. I mean, Maddison's been playing very, very well.
Yeah, he has.
He looks like a player. Harvey Barnes, he looks good until the final product most of the time. But he scored last night. So no, I think it's going to be a really tough game with or without Vardy, but it'll just be slightly easier without Vardy. So hopefully, hopefully he don't play.
So a final word. It's probably been a bit of a down podcast, but confidence in Lampard still high. It just seems he's making a few decisions which maybe you wouldn't like to be made, but ultimately we have to result till we get to the end product, and ultimately it's about giving that bloke time. However, I assume that's what you're thinking, right?
Yeah, I'm all about giving Lampard time. I don't think I'll ever be Lampard out team.
Even if it looks like you're probably not going to get top four?
Even then, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. All right, yeah. So let's hope it comes back with the Leicester game, and it's been a more positive result. I think from what I'm hearing to you today is I'm not going to look for a beautiful game from Chelsea or a kind of clean, sweet, kind of nice possession. A good, as you said, a good strong spell of play, but just really driving hard for the result. All the teams in for it and really trying to go after and ensure that Lampard gets the result he needs. I think if I see that from the players, then I think I'll be happy. And I think that's probably what you want to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, that's today's podcast. Look, things will look up for Chelsea. Lots to unpick at the moment, lots of differing opinions, but I think we can all get behind Lampard in the hope that things start to look up again very shortly. I'm sure they will. Surely this Christmas period's got to be over. Christmas is about 40 years ago, right? So surely it's got to start looking up. But anyways, don't forget to like, subscribe and comment. Let us know your thoughts on kind of where Chelsea are and what's going to be coming up and his decisions on players. And again, please hit the bell notification for the next upload. I'm sure there's going to be lots to talk about after that Leicester game. It's a hugely important game. I'm keen to hear your thoughts too. So peace out from me and Jamie Bunce. Take care.